Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Some people have a limiting belief, and it sounds like this: I can't earn more money. And it becomes really frustrating because the people who say, I can't earn more money, they take huge amounts of action. They spend a lot of time developing their skill sets. They spend a lot of time studying and acquiring new knowledge. Yet through all of the acquisition of knowledge and skill, they still can't earn the money that they desire. Now, in this video, I'd like to share with you a case study. The case study is one that we've used emotional intelligence to take a deep look inside somebody's personal psychology. And I want to break down this case study with you today so you can see with science what a six-figure mindset looks like and what can hold somebody back from achieving a seven-figure income. So starting over here on the right-hand side, we performed an emotional quotient on one of our clients. The client took the emotional quotient and we started to look at the key areas of emotional intelligence that were holding them back. In one particular area that we're looking at is self-recognition. Now, there's a couple of sub-factors in self-recognition that were preventing the client from earning the type of money they desired. First of all, the client's self-awareness was incredibly low. Self-awareness is understanding why you think and feel the way that you do. Self-awareness is understanding your wants, your needs, your desires. Self-awareness is also understanding your fears, your frustrations, and those things that hold you back. However, this client here, their self-awareness score came in at 40%, which means there was a significant portion of awareness that they didn't have. Secondly, cause and effect. The client couldn't understand the connections of cause and effect between the way they thought and the way they felt. They couldn't see the cause and effect connection between their feelings and the actions that they failed to take. The third area here is self-appreciation. Now, one of the areas that the client struggled with was they didn't like who they were. They would look in the mirror and they didn't like what they saw. They didn't see themselves as a value contributor in the field of sales. They couldn't see themselves as a value contribution to their team, and this was really holding them back. The fourth one here, consciousness and assertiveness, which was really high, it was 90%. And then emotional identification. This client couldn't understand the emotions that they were going through at any given time. Most emotions last for just a few split seconds or up to about 90 seconds. Anything after that tends to be a mood. And as I explain the case study, you'll understand how the client's emotions and their moods really impacted their performance. So let's break it down. The client has a limiting belief, and they were saying out loud, I can't earn more money. And what we noticed was that there was self-doubts that was limiting his possibility. And when he started to experience a setback, his losses were magnified and his victories were minimized. So, for example, if the client won a sale, you would celebrate that success. But what the client did was he would minimize his victory. He'd say, I just got lucky. I was just in the right place at the right time. I must have gone up against all the other poorer or weaker salespeople. And so even when there was a win, because of the lower level of emotional intelligence, he magnified his losses. So he minimized his victories and then he magnified his losses. As soon as there was a loss, when there was a lost sale, a lost customer, a lost opportunity, he would blow that out of all proportion. And that's where the emotional energy was tied up. In addition, what we also discovered was that others perceived him to be overconfident and actually complacent. This was outside of his conscious awareness, and when he would come into a presentation, into a sales situation, people would see him as overconfident, and this was one of the reasons why they didn't want to work with him. In addition, he was also seen as complacent by the team members. So these are the things we started to discover, and we started to discover the real reasons why he couldn't earn more money. So that's what we see on the front, but there's also a backstory, and I want to share the backstory with you. In addition, when we're performing this case study, we realized that the client's resiliency was considerably low. And when he won business, of course, he didn't celebrate. Now, the reason why he didn't celebrate when he won, because his family had always conditioned him by saying, be humble, be humble, be humble, be humble. And every time he had a win, he had to be humble because of his past conditioning. So he won, but instead of it being an exciting time of his week, an exciting part of the day, he'd really turn it down and he would almost ignore the fact that he had a win. Secondly, when he lost business, he would actually go into a meltdown. When he lost the business, as I mentioned before, he would minimize the victories and magnify the losses. When he lost businesses, he would go into a meltdown. He'd get angry. He couldn't control the emotions. He would get upset with himself. And these emotions didn't stick around for a split second to 90 seconds. They would stay around for hours and days. He'd end up feeling disappointed with himself, and then he would beat himself up emotionally. And so these are the things that are happening behind the scenes. These were the real problems that prevented him from getting what he wanted. Now, after he'd start to beat himself up, the fear of failure would kick in. He would start to see himself losing more business, losing more opportunities, losing more time, losing more resources. And the fear of failure started to kick in. What happened for him then? He went into avoidance behavior. He knew he started to fear failure, but instead of taking action, he would then drift back even further. In addition, because of his DISC personality style, his fears of rejection kicked in. The fear of rejection is triggered by hearing the word no. The fear of rejection is also triggered by imagining that your next customer is going to say no to you. So once the fear of failure kicked in, very quickly after that, the fear of rejection was then triggered. And he started to go into an emotional spiral, and he started to spiral down and down. And eventually, for weeks, he would avoid speaking to new prospects. He would avoid going to presentations. And because of that lack of resiliency, that's what kept him stuck at a 6-figure income. It's what prevented him from getting to the 7th figure. So using emotional intelligence, using science today, we can look at the surface problems, but we can quickly discover what has contributed and what has led to the problem and the backstory. So our results today are a reflection of our past programming. And if we have self-limiting beliefs, if we have doubts, if we have fears, and we don't attend to those, it's almost impossible to earn more money. Now, if you found this case study fascinating, if you liked it, if you'd want to see more of these in the future, leave a comment in the comments box below. Tell me what you learned and also tell me what you'd like to hear more of. I hope you enjoyed this and have a wonderful day.